And just to add to what Brian was saying, 3 years ago this week that all of that was going on in Afghanistan, that disgrace, that debacle, that stain on our national conscience, and I think on American history. Steve Nakui, who really just got so emotional, so angry, so frustrated, he yelled out in the middle of the State of the Union because not only has Biden gone through now 4 years and not said the word Afghanistan, he's never said his son's name, he's never said any of the 13 service members' names. Steve's other son, so distraught at the loss of his brother, killed himself at his son's gravesite. The moral injury, not only to those families, but to every veteran, to all of us, who sacrificed so much time, treasure, our lives, my Green Berets that I think about every day. It's one thing to lose your men or women in combat, that happens, but to lose it due to incompetence and to literally idiotic and asinine decision-making out of that White House is something we as the veterans community, and certainly me as long as I'm in this position and I have a breath, will never let them forget it. She owns it. She owns it. She was proud of it. She bragged about it. And now to try to pretend it didn't happen, to not even acknowledge it so far this week, and we won't hear the term Afghanistan. You'll hear Trump hundreds of times, but you won't hear any ownership of that debacle out of any one of the speakers this week. And so what was happening 3 years ago? Well, with Harris standing by Biden's side, he was saying, what do you mean? This was an outstanding success. No. There are less than 100 Americans who want to leave and who can't, which, by the way, that figure was quietly revised months later to be over 800. And we still don't know even how many of those that we've gotten out. Over 150,000 of our allies left behind, and at the current rate that they're still doddering along and trying to get them out, it'll take 12 years to get our people out. And the Taliban are hunting them down right now as we speak, torturing, arresting, kidnapping. There are 3 Americans hostage right now in Afghanistan, held by the Taliban. At the same time, Biden and Harris provide billions of dollars in aid. These two wouldn't know leverage if it smacked them upside the head in terms of how to deal with a terrorist organization. How do you give an organization billions of dollars in aid while they're taking our own citizens hostage? I wish one of you could ask them that. That would be nice. I think that's fair for the American people to have asked. Look, I could go on, but the other thing that is happening right now as we speak in Afghanistan is terrorism is making a roaring comeback. Al-Qaeda is resurgent. They are developing training camps. ISIS is resurgent. There have been 6 plots thwarted in Europe. Well, 7 now if we count the Taylor Swift concerts. And, oh, by the way, let's not forget the 8 ISIS operatives who were arrested in 3 American cities right here in the United States just a few months ago that came across our wide open southern border, that were smuggled there by an ISIS ring, and that we're looking at various sites to hit on the anniversary of the Pulse nightclub attack that happened back in 2016, right on the edge of my district. So that just occurred. Hezbollah is here. Hamas is here. Well, heck, I mean, Hamas is sitting right down the street, right amongst the protests where they're flying Hamas and Hezbollah flags. I mean, how would we be responding if they were flying ISIS flags? And why are we responding as a society and as a government differently? Because they're all one and the same in terms of organizations. So they are here. Another attack. Biden and Harris's own FBI director has repeatedly said is imminent and just a matter of when, not if, because of the failed policies of this administration that she's proud of. So Afghanistan was the original sin. Putin got the green light between lifting sanctions on Nord Stream 2, between saying, well, maybe a minor incursion, we won't respond as badly, between having aborting Putin with a summit after Russian hackers shut down gas on our eastern seaboard, and after Putin invaded Georgia under George Bush, the country of Georgia, invaded Crimea under Obama, didn't invade anyone under Trump because deterrence was established and worked, but knew he could get away with it again with Obama 2.0 in the Biden administration. And we now have the largest land war in World War II. So terrorism is on the march again. Putin is on the march. She is on the march. Didn't see spy balloons hovering over our nuclear bomber sites, our nuclear command and control sites, and our stealth facilities under Donald Trump. You saw it for days on end under Biden and Harris. She's sitting in every National Security Council meeting where Biden is making these decisions. She's proud to say she's the last in the room before making all of these decisions. She owns that too. Kim Jong-un expanding his nuclear arsenal. The Middle East. Donald Trump left the Middle East better off than he found it. He was the first president in modern history for that to happen. ISIS largely defeated and contained. Iran broke. Couldn't pay their terrorist proxies, according to the terrorist proxies. Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis complaining that they're running out of cash because it had all dried up coming out of Tehran. And literally Nobel Peace Prize worthy peace accords being signed on the White House lawn between Arab nations and Israel that only a generation ago were invading Israel. All under Donald J. Trump's watch. And all now literally on fire as we speak. As we speak. 5 Americans held hostage, sitting in the tunnels of Gaza now for going on a year. 6 bodies found yesterday by Israeli Defense Forces of dead American hostages. And what did we hear from the Biden-Harris Secretary of State last night? On the tarmac in the Middle East, on the world stage, criticism of Israel. Israel has to stop escalating. I believe that the reason Iran hasn't struck back yet is because Israel sent a very strong signal. If we can get the leader of Hamas, Haniyeh, in your green zone, in the middle of your presidential inauguration, we can get any one of you Ayatollahs. So you better think twice, and they are thinking twice. That's how you restore deterrence. Biden and Harris are like the kids we all saw in the schoolyard dealing with the bully that said, can I just give you a little more lunch money and you'll leave me alone? Sometimes you have to escalate to de-escalate. Sometimes you have to punch the bully in the nose to restore peace. That's what President Trump did with the Soleimani strike, and peace was restored. That's what he did by taking out Baghdadi, and ISIS has been largely disassembled, but now is back on the march again, plotting and planning attacks across Europe and in the United States. And oh, by the way, just for the record, just as a reminder, Joe Biden opposed the taking out of Osama bin Laden, actively opposed it while he was vice president, and Kamala Harris criticized the taking down of Soleimani. So if that isn't just an indicator on top of what they've already done, of what they would do and how they view the world, of an appeasement first, a concessions first approach, let's look at the recent hostage trade with Russia. They literally gave Putin his crown jewel in Victor Bout in exchange for, what's her name, Ryan? What's that? Yeah, Ryder, thank you. But they had been asking for him Putin had been asking for him for a decade. He was the crown jewel. We kind of, the Biden and Harris administration ran out of people to give. So what did Putin do? Well, maybe we can get them to get the Europeans to clean their prisons out. And guess what they did? Because the guy that the KGB, or now FSB hitman that German gave, literally executed someone in broad daylight in Germany. And Biden leaned on them to clean out their prisons. They just are literally running out of concessions to make. And the world and the country is far more dangerous for it. So what do we have to deal with that? Well, we have a military now, under their watch, that has a recruiting crisis, the worst since Vietnam, the worst in the history of the all-volunteer military. I'm the chairman of military readiness on the Armed Services Committee. Our readiness is abysmal. It's nowhere where it needs to be. The most advanced and expensive weapon system in the history of the world, the Joint Strike Fighter. Do you know what its readiness rate, full mission capable rate is? 29%. 29%. Our submarines, our last major strategic advantage of any Navy in the world, 40% of them can't leave the yards. 40% are too broke. But we have an administration here that is more worried about base renaming, pronouns, Chinese-made solar panels on the Pentagon, of all places. And yes, I don't know if we have CNN here, my friend Daniel Dale, who wanted to try to fact-check me on this at the RNC, and yes, investing research and development dollars to the tunes of millions in electric tanks. Last I checked, there's no charging stations across Africa or the Middle East or what have you. Not to mention the fact that the battery technology and everything else is made by who? China. So this is the truly dangerous and ridiculous priorities that Biden and Harris have put in place, and that Harris would absolutely continue in a next administration, that has us to a point where not only do we have threats the likes of which we've never seen in the history of the United States, but a military that now has an army that's the smallest since World War II, a navy that is smaller than China's and broke in many ways in terms of its maintenance and readiness, and an air force that's so expensive that it's literally not sustainable. And just one